Y'all ready for this? Welcome to Sports Kid Drama Kid. I'm Jim. I'm the Sports Kid.
I'm Andy. I'm the Drama Kid.
And in honor of Election Week 2024 today, I bring you an episode I'm calling All the Presidents Sports. Well, not all the presidents, but the ones that I could find sports stories about, and it's quite a few.
I think I'm just remembering now. I think I did a scene in an acting class in college from All the President's Men.
Yeah, I don't think I remember the movie very well.
No.
And what I decided to do was analyze our former presidents based on their connections to sports and how each of them used sports to shape their campaigns and maybe win over a certain subset of the American vote. Like any good episode of the show, there are a ton of side quests in this one because, Andy, it turns out our presidents are usually pretty shitty people with some ulterior motives.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So first up, we're going to look at Teddy Roosevelt, old TR. So his sports connection from 1901 to 1909 played a significant role in sort of saving American football, if you remember. I forget what episode exactly, where we talked about how he was like concerned about the safety of the sport and intervened in a way and like put his iron fist in play.
Put his big stick.
Yeah, his big stick in there. He convened in a 1905 meeting with football officials, which led to major rule changes, including the forward pass. So we have him to thank for offense. That's fun to watch.
Wait a minute. They weren't passing the ball forward?
I think it was a lot of rugby backward passes before that sort of thing.
Okay.
Though not directly tied to his campaign and campaigns, Roosevelt's reforms helped him maintain his image as sort of a reformer willing to preserve American traditions, which reformer willing to preserve American traditions is funny.
That's, yeah.
And here's a little bit from the Hardcore College Football History podcasts about sort of the Roosevelt saving football thing. And I guess maybe it wasn't totally true.
So the most commonly related myth about Teddy Roosevelt saving the game of football was that he saw a photo of Swarthmore football player Bob Maxwell covered in blood because he had broken a nose in a game and continued playing against Penn. And the photo sent Roosevelt into action. He demanded the game be changed and used his bully pulpit to call the biggest powers in football to the White House so he could give them the what's for. And that the game had to be changed or abolished. And this story about Roosevelt came from the 1944 book Encyclopedia of Sports, written by Frank Menke. There's likely no photo of Maxwell that's mentioned in his book. Roosevelt never mentions the photo. And all of this makes for a good story because 2 days after the bloody Maxwell game, Roosevelt did meet with representatives from Harvard, Yale, and Princeton about football and its reform. The said meeting took place on October 9th, just after the beginning of the 1905 season, and the meeting was arranged several weeks before the bloody game. Roosevelt was heavily involved in the 1905 season, but the idea that he somehow saved football implies that he planned to abolish it completely, even though he had no authority to do so, or that it was ever in real danger. At least not from Roosevelt.
So they just like made that story up?
It's kind of a good story about your president, you know?
Yeah.
Like, especially in election sort of circumstances. Like, he saved football. He's a real man of the people.
You saved football because you threatened to abolish it and then didn't?
Yeah, he threatened to abolish it unless it was changed or something.
Okay.
But I guess none of that actually.
And none
really
of the changes were incorporating like protective.
No, they were a little bit.
Oh, they were.
Like,
okay.
I think it may have, maybe not helmets, but it was had to do with like the large scrums that were really hurting people.
Got it.
And like running full speed at people in certain ways with your head. I don't know. Like, I think they made some changes to make it a little less barbaric, but still way too rough.
I'm not a big history buff, but I feel like weren't there more pressing things going on at the time? Whatever.
No. Okay. From 1909 to 1913, we're talking Taft, baby. What do you know about William Howard Taft? The bathtub story?
Yeah. This that he needed a big bathtub.
Yep. Yep, me too.
That his bathtub was too small.
That's what we all learned about Taft.
That's literally, I can't tell you anything else about his presidency, which is very sad.
I'll try.
On a lot of levels.
A little bit about sports, at least.
Like, that is how fat phobic America is. Like, I can't remember a single other
this
fact
man
about him.
ran the country, and all we know about him is big bathtub. I would have loved his bathtub.
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Who doesn't want more space than a hot bath of water?
Taft started the tradition of throwing out the first pitch at a Major League Baseball game in 1910 during a Washington Senators game, and sort of established that tradition. Taft's connection to baseball helped him seem a little more approachable and relatable to the average American. That's kind of how people used baseball as America's pastime. So now I'm going to have you read a little bit from a Washington Post article about that first pitch. It's very small and written in old-timey print, but we'll try to read some of it. Because of the flowery way that the news talked about the president at this time, especially.
Walter Johnson and President Taft were the twinkling luminaries of the day, the, quote, star performers, if you will, placing administrative sanction upon the auspicious union of official Washington and baseballistic Washington for the coming summer.
So, yeah.
Baseballistic.
They were making up words. They were using the word auspicious.
Mm-hmm. I don't even really know what this means. It just means that they were there and people were excited.
Yeah, they're just using a lot of big words. Yeah. So that's pretty much Taft's connection to sports that I could find. His big thing was like throwing out the first pitch.
And he was the first person to do that. And now we got every celebrity. We got dogs doing it sometimes.
Yeah, we got dogs sometimes carrying the ball from the mound. Yeah.
I saw a tweet once that was like, I want us to change the trend of celebrities throwing out the last pitch. Like, bases loaded. Here's Danny DeVito.
I did see that, yeah. All right, we're going to move on to Warren G. Harding, something that no one has ever said.
This is really reminding me that I don't know, like, dick shit about any of the presidents.
1921 to 23 is his tenure-ish. So, Harding was an avid golfer and baseball fan. He played catch on the White House lawn with the Secret Service agents and regularly played golf. Harding's interest in golf reinforced his image among middle and upper class voters as golf was becoming increasingly popular with those demographics. Yeah, this is where sort of using golf for the upper middle class sort of becomes the thing as golf becomes upper middle class, country club culture. Here's a Times Herald article just sort of praising Harding's golf game.
Got it.
They're trying to be nice, even though Harding, I don't think, was that great of a golfer.
Warren G. Harding's collective golf cards may not look well enough to be framed, but he is a rare golfer, for he never displays extreme joy or chagrin over his game. Like most of the garden variety golfers, he spends a good bit of his time in the bunkers and raises much dust. But unlike most golfers, he doesn't raise Cain, in quotes, with the dust. He just shoots away until he is out of the hazard and back on the fairway, and never a word or even an ugly look.
So Harding is just this stoic golfer. He's really bad, but he's just like a robot.
This is so
hits
funny.
It into the bunker. I will shoot it into the bunker. God bless America.
This just tells me that like politics has always influenced the press, because I feel like whoever Warren G. Harding's press secretary was like, okay, he's terrible at golf, but I need you to sort of, I don't know, lower the volume on that and just raise the volume on the fact that he's just
persistent.
He's persistent and he's just even keeled, and we're going to praise that.
Yeah. Okay, I think I can do that. I can do that.
Like, meanwhile, he's probably like fucking cursing in his head. Like,
yeah. Oh my God. He's probably like, fuck, get out of here. I don't even want to do this. Okay, moving on from Harding. Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933, who gets blamed for a lot of stuff in our country. Bad president.
Including in a song from the musical Annie that goes, "We like to thank you, Herbert Hoover." And it's like sung by a bunch of like down and out people, and it's satirical.
Yeah. Nice. I got it. So sports connection for Hoover. Hoover had a strong connection to college sports, particularly Stanford football, where he enjoyed attending games, though his presidency was overshadowed by the Great Depression.
As it should be.
Hoover's interest in football, in this case, did little to offset public opinion. There wasn't really much there.
You're kidding.
This is, however, a great excuse to play one of the most iconic college football plays of all time. The Play. Do you know The Play? Stanford and Cal, 1982.
No, to me, the play is like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? That's the play.
Okay. Have you ever heard the line, the band is on the field?
No.
Okay.
Ball comes loose and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rodgers along the sideline, another one.
This is an end-of-game lateral pitch,
Oh,
trying to keep it alive.
wow.
They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go.
What?
The band is on the field. The band is on the field.
Okay.
That's one of the most iconic calls
Let me-
in sports history.
Wow. Okay. Let me just describe what I think just happened. So like they're doing this play and people keep getting sacked, but they manage to, as they're being sacked, toss the football off to someone else who's still running.
Tackled, not sacked. Sacking is when you get the quarterback for a
It's
sack.
only sacking if you get the
Yeah.
quarterback.
Tackling is what happens everywhere else.
Sorry, I didn't
So,
realize. So
it's
people
a-
are getting tackled.
It's a kickoff. The game is basically over.
Yeah.
Stanford has to kick the ball off to Cal one more time
Uh-huh.
because they just scored to go up.
Yes.
And so Cal needs to return this kickoff for a touchdown to win the game. And so they kick it off, and Cal starts doing what I think some of the ESPN people call pitchy woo woo, which is like basically if you don't throw the ball for like an illegal forward pass, which ends the play, you can keep tossing it backward rugby style. That you can still do that in football. So like you can do a backward pitch at any point.
Got
So
it.
on those plays, they're trying to just keep pitching it back and see if something happens, like we get free and we can return it. So
And
they
they
did that.
did.
But the band for Stanford thought they had won. They thought that the tackle had been made. And so then the infamous call, the band is on the field. The band is on the field happens. And he plows over a tuba player or a trombonist or whatever that was.
Yeah, because they were standing in the end zone.
Yeah, and they counted the touchdown because the game was still going, but the band was on the field. So that's the iconic play.
That's,
and that's
just bad conducting.
Yeah,
You don't want to
it's definitely
start
bad.
before.
Yeah, you can't get them out there before. We'll watch just that one little part again now that you have a little more context.
Sure.
Just because it's pretty great.
Rodgers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do
See, they think it's over there.
Yeah.
as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back.
It is not.
They're down to the 20.
That's kind of amazing.
Pitches it again.
He's going to go into the end zone. He's going to go into the end zone.
He plows the
Oh my
saxophone
God.
player or
The guy's
trombone
hat
player.
falls off.
Bears have won. Oh my God! The most amazing, sensational, dramatic,
Oh my God.
exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football, California.
So, does that still happen? I don't feel like I've never seen that happen. I mean, not that my eyes are always on the screen.
They're not going to let it happen again. But I feel like that's one of those things that happens once.
Because it's kind of smart. Like you're going down, and then if a guy can be there to just toss it back to.
Oh, yeah. No, they do the pitch thing all the time. They obviously don't do the band thing all the time.
No, well, there's no marching band in the NFL.
I'm sorry. I was confused.
Listen, I'm confused all the time.
All right. Let's go to FDR.
Got it.
So 1933 to 1945, FDR was an ardent baseball supporter. And we actually talked about this in our military and sports episode. During World War II, he famously encouraged baseball to be continued being played in the green light letter.
Yes.
Remember this?
To up the morale of
Yep.
the country.
Yep. He embraced baseball during wartime, helped solidify his connection to the public. All right. Now Eisenhower, 53 to 1961. And again, these are just like guys with a particular connection to sports. Eisenhower was a well-known golf enthusiast. He actually installed a putting green at the White House and frequently played golf with dignitaries and, ambassadors. He also had a deep interest in football, having played at West Point. So we're going to do a little deep dive sidetrack here about the White House putting green.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, White House putting green. Let me look into that. Who else had it? What happened there? And it's a saga. So here's the story of the White House putting green. I'll have you read a little bit from Wikipedia just to kick us off.
The putting green at the White House, the official residence of the President of the United States, for anyone who doesn't know, is located on the South Lawn near the West Wing.
Yeah, we include that for the Canadian listeners.
So it still exists.
Well,
It was first installed in 1954 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was an avid golfer. Eisenhower also created 2 par 3 holes at Camp David. Eisenhower was plagued by squirrels on the green and ordered the United States Secret Service to trap them and remove them to Camp David. Wait, so they flew the squirrels?
We'll talk about the squirrels.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting hung up on the squirrels too early. It was removed by President Richard Nixon. The putting green was reinstalled by President George H.W. Bush in 1991. However, President Bill Clinton moved it to its current location just south of the Rose Garden, a short walk from the Oval Office. Robert Trent Jones Jr. recreated the putting green for Clinton in 1995. The work was funded by donations of time and machinery and required no public funds. It is on the same site of Eisenhower's original green. The green is roughly 2,000 square feet. The green does not have a bunker. It was not included at the behest of the Secret Service, who feared that an errant golf shot from the bunker could damage the White House. President George W. Bush's dog Barney was known to retrieve balls from the hole for the president.
And it didn't include a bunker, so Harding wasn't there. Yeah, so what a saga, right?
I mean,
what a dumb little thing that they're paying way too much attention to, it
it's
seems.
just funny that, like, depending on who's president, they're like, get rid of it. The other one's like, no, bring it back.
Yeah.
Donations of time and machinery. I like that it required no public funds, but does that mean that we didn't pay the people who made the golf course?
No, they donated their time. It's an honor.
What?
It's an honor. Okay, so now we're going to go through articles about each removal and put back, because I went through and found all of them. So I'm gonna have you read Ike gets his green.
Oh my God.
The first time.
Ike to get private putting green on White House lawn. President Eisenhower's private putting green on the White House lawn will be located an easy chip shot from his office door. It also will be far enough from the fence surrounding the spacious grounds to afford some privacy from a glimpse of Mr. Eisenhower at his practice. They probably won't be able to tell whether he is sinking the putt or missing.
Yeah, so Eisenhower puts it in.
Okay.
He's got a nice little private putting green.
I like how they're like, we have to make it private enough that nobody knows whether he's good or bad at golf. They just know he's golfing.
This might be the best article ever written.
Okay.
And this is about the squirrels.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
This is from the Desert News, 1955 at Salt Lake City.
For some context for our listeners, I love squirrels. We have a lot of them in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we live near quite a few parks. So the squirrels really do very well for themselves.
Yeah, with French fries, human food.
Yes, lots of human food. There was one time Jim and I were on a walk and one of them had a full slice of pizza that it was like dragging around. And I like broke away from Jim mid-conversation with my phone because I was like, he's got a full slice. He's got a full slice. I got to get it I got to get it recorded. The famous playful White House squirrels never had so many defenders as today. By the merest political coincidence, the most outspoken were Democrats. The Democrats, delighted to find the GOP exposed on a down-to-earth issue, gleefully teed off on President Eisenhower for having the White House squirrels trapped and exiled because they scratch up his practice golf green. The furor, touched off by Senator Richard L. Neuberger in a Senate speech, threatened to boil up into the biggest White House controversy since former President Truman added a balcony on the building's south side. Neuberger accused Mr. Eisenhower of doing, quote, permanent and irreparable damage to an American tradition by trapping the squirrels and carting them miles away to preserve the surface of his putting green. Neuberger kicked in $25 to start a fund to build a squirrel-proof aluminum fence around the golfing area so the bushy-tailed animals can continue to romp as they have for 150 years. He invited other wildlife lovers to contribute. The White House would have to promise, however, to stop trapping immediately.
Isn't that insane?
That is so funny.
That's like an episode of The West Wing.
Oh, 100%.
The Democrats in their office are going to decide to basically like try to get their goat on this issue.
They're like, ooh, he's trapping the squirrels. Let's get his ass.
Let's get some environmentalist people in here.
I do think it's a little bit insane to relocate them that far.
Yeah.
Like, why?
I think it's like dog logic. Maybe they forget after a certain point.
But like relocating them, supposedly, the other article said, or Wikipedia said, to Camp David. Isn't Camp David quite far away from the White House?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a helicopter ride.
I'm just imagining like a large cage of squirrels just freaking out in a helicopter, and the helicopter pilot's like, I'm gonna crash. Like I can't. Like one of them gets loose in the helicopter.
Yeah. And now we got an article about when Nixon removed it.
Oh my God. This is so unbelievably stupid.
You got to read that. This
Okay.
headline's amazing.
Okay.
And this is there's a lot of humor in good journalism from this time.
Oh, yeah.
This is from the News and Record.
Putting green at White House, now just lawn. Sometimes the style of journalistic writing, like the way that
The Onion style lends itself to such a good.
It's just
This is an
perfect.
Onion headline.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. President Nixon has removed the private putting green on the south lawn of the White House outside his Oval Office. The bright flag is gone from the cup, and the once sleek putting surface has been permitted to revert to plain lawn. Nixon, although a golfer himself, did not use the putting green, a presidential spokesman said Thursday, because the green required constant maintenance. Even though not used, it was decided to let it go, and it vanished about a week or so ago, the spokesman said. The green was installed in 1954 by U.S. Golf Association as a gift for President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who enjoyed practicing chip shots and putting. It was a familiar landmark on the South Lawn through the Kennedy and Johnson administrations, although used infrequently in those years. Nixon has also eliminated the White House swimming pool, which he did not use either. It has been covered over by the building of a new press room.
He just got rid of the swimming pool.
Wow, Nixon hated fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everyone else after him just doesn't get a pool now?
yeah, seriously. Like, that's actually quite a big undertaking to remove a pool.
He already had Watergate. You didn't need to get rid of that water, too.
Oh my God. Get out of here.
Okay.
I'll do the rest of the episode by myself.
I don't have my sound maker here today.
Thank God.
Or I would have hit it. Yeah. All right. Now
my God.
we got another one. We got another one, baby. President Bush puts it back.
All right. God, this isn't even, I have to say there's like several more links in this
Yep,
section.
yep.
This isn't even.
Yep. This is the Knoxville News Sentinel, also an AP article.
Got it. Okay. 9-hole putting green installed on White House lawn. This is so dumb. Okay. President Bush no longer has to leave home to play golf.
Just like Eisenhower did.
A 9-hole putting green sprouted on the White House South Lawn while he was vacationing in Maine. Bush tried out the kidney-shaped artificial turf green soon after getting back from Kennebunkport, where he played golf nearly every day during his month-long vacation. The single green, 55 feet by 35 feet, contains 9 separate holes. It's in a secluded area of the White House grounds near the tennis court, hidden from public view by large trees and shrubs. Sports Rec, a sporting equipment company, and the White House Maintenance Office built the green. Foster said it cost about $2,000 and was paid for with money from the White House budget. The tennis court was also resurfaced.
In 91, it only cost $2,000, I guess.
That's
Doesn't seem right.
no, it doesn't.
Okay, now we're to Clinton. And Clinton puts a different one in.
What?
Yeah.
He doesn't just use the one that HW put in?
And Clinton also was a big golfer. And this is an article I found, and also an AP article from 1995 titled "Clinton Has New Weapon." And what it means is he got a gift of a golf club from a foreign country. And I'll have you read.
President Clinton has a new secret weapon in his golf bag. It's a sleek metal driver called the Peace Missile, fashioned from genuine Russian nuclear missile parts. Oh, that's so bleak. Oh my God. A missile engraved on the top of the club head marks the aim point. Flying home from Portland aboard Air Force One late Tuesday, Clinton and golf architect Robert Trent Jones Jr. visited reporters to show off the new club. Jones said a friend in Russia gave him the club for the president. Clinton called the case of defense conversion the ultimate example of beating swords into plowshares. Quote, "It will be really interesting to see if the ball goes left or right," said Clinton. "I'm going to look out for an early excuse to try it out." Jones designed Russia's first 18-hole golf course, which opened last year. Closer to home, he designed the new White House putting green on the south lawn. I've lost track of which lawn.
So I think because Clinton was friends with this golf course designer guy, he got him to redo the putting surface
and
area.
do a golf course in Russia.
And he's doing golf courses in Russia, probably. I'm guessing through Clinton. Like, how do you get that deal, right?
I'm sure they like ran the club through like whatever security monitoring, but like, I don't know, a golf club made out of Russian missile parts.
Yeah. And then here is a last photo of Obama and Joe Biden. Biden looking very old even here in 2009.
Because he was.
On the putting green. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yep. So yeah, that's the putting green saga.
Yeah.
Like everyone has had different things and it was replaced like 50 times.
That is such a funny thing. I mean, I understand like wanting to have it because if you're a golfer and also like president's got to make a lot of decisions. So if this is like, I don't know, something to help you like relax your mind, like taking a walk or whatever, like I get it. It's just, it's sort of funny how much like time and energy and money was wasted to be like, I want a golf course. I don't want a golf course. It's like, get over
Oh my God. You should just have to keep whatever the building has.
Yeah. You don't live there forever.
We shouldn't be spending our money to redo the building for you.
It's stupid.
That's so stupid. Okay. JFK. 1961 is the era we're talking about here. Kennedy was known as a sailor and athletic figure. And he definitely used that image in his, very sort of model campaign.
The handsome cutie president.
Yeah. He was really into physical fitness. And he was actually the one who, for our maintenance phase fans out there, launched the Presidential Physical Fitness Challenge.
Oh, fuck you, JFK.
Yeah. So if you hated having to do those blue and red patches, blame him.
God, I never got either of them. I was always like whatever the yellow one was.
Here is a kind of upsetting series of things about JFK on physical fitness in today's light if you're like, a body positive person.
Okay.
There is nothing, I think, more unfortunate than to have soft, chubby, fat-looking children who go to watch their school play basketball every Saturday and regard that as their week's exercise. I hope that all of you will join, and everybody in the United States, to make sure that our children participate fully in a vigorous and adventurous life which is possible for them in this very rich country of ours.
Yeah.
Well, that's
pretty
fucking rude.
Stupid. And then here's just another thing.
President John F. Kennedy has a personal message for all of us on this important subject.
I welcome this opportunity
Oh my God.
to speak to the people of America about a subject which I believe to be most important,
What is this
and that is the
exercise
subject
thing
of
too?
physical fitness.
They're like on their
And I
knees,
speak not
bending
only
back
as
and forth.
President of the United States, but also as a parent of 2 children who I hope will grow up with those qualities of vigor and energy which we identify with the best of America. This should be a matter of concern to us all. A country is as strong, really, as its citizens. And I think that mental and physical health, mental and physical vigor go hand in hand. I hope that we will not find a day in the United States when all of us are spectators except for a few who are out on the field. I hope all Americans will be on the field. That is, they will concern themselves with the education of their children, with the physical development of their children, with the participation in the vigorous life, and then also as their children get older, inculcate into them a desire to maintain that vigor through their normal life.
So yeah, he's pretty much kind of like, we should be bullying everyone into being skinny.
Okay.
Like that sort of launches and reinforces that whole idea that like fucked with us as kids.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just have some comments about that video. People in that video were exercising in like slacks, belts, and like button-down shirts.
Oh my God, I'm having a moment of clarity.
What?
This is why when you go to the YMCA, all the guys are in slacks.
Oh, maybe.
Because they're used to it.
That's Jim and I used to belong to the YMCA as our gym, and a lot of the boomer-aged men in particular, like Jim and I would like part ways to do our exercises and come back together and be like, did you see that guy who was lifting weights in like belted khakis.
It looked like he had brought in a shake weight of his own, and he's got his khakis belted off.
Like this is not like appropriate like clothing to be exercising in. Also, all of the exercises are so goofy looking, and like the relay race where they're only hopping on one foot.
I had to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, all of the presidential, looking back, I remember doing the presidential physical fitness test and being like, who designed these? They're so stupid and like weird. Like the shuttle run and the V-sit reach. The V-sit reach where there was like a weird little metal box that was designed particularly for the V-sit reach. I don't know. It was just, they were all very weird, and now it makes sense because they're all like from this time and like hadn't been updated. And the whole argument that like the country is stronger when all of us are physically fit. I mean, I guess, but like, are you planning on like making us fight a war?
Yeah, no, it's what it is. It's definitely like keep everybody war ready, especially Cold War sort of tensions.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's sort of disguised. And it's also like, it is good to like want people to be healthy, but like this blanket way of doing it is like actually the main cause of health problems.
Oh, for sure.
So like he's really big on that. It's also strange because I have noticed, not to get too like current day political, but both parties, like all parties, like sort of use health now a lot. In this sort of Kennedy way of like, I'm just noticing a lot more of like actual like shame and anger being put back on people who are like fat.
Shame, and also like, it's your fault.
You
personally, as a citizen, need to take responsibility for not being fat, or you as a parent need
a family,
need to take responsibility. When it's like the health conversation we should be talking about is like people are unhealthy in this country because they can't afford to go to the doctor,
and they can't afford food that's not poison.
Exactly. So like those are actually your responsibilities as the government. So stop telling me to hop on one foot and do a relay race, because that's not going to do anything.
Literally stop having me hop on one foot and dance around like for you.
Maybe give me affordable health coverage and like affordable healthy food.
Yeah. That's my Kennedy thing. He was kind of an asshole about this. And he used his athleticism, his sort of good looks as a way to sort of create an image of people he wanted.
I hate looking at soft children.
Soft boys. It's like, don't look at them.
Why are you looking at them?
Okay. Richard Nixon. This is fun. 1969.
Said no one ever after Richard Nixon.
74. Nixon was a passionate football fan. He was deeply involved with the sport, even offering advice, which I'm sure they loved, to Washington's NFL team, and meeting with iconic coaches like Vince Lombardi. And he actually had, I think, a relationship with old Vince.
Romantic?
Well, we don't know. We didn't know a lot about him. So here is an article, again, just funny coverage of Nixon about sports. This is the type of thing they would get published in order to just show that they like
humanize.
This is the dumbest one ever. It's from the North Hollywood Valley Times.
Nixon loves all sports. The world of sports, all sports. Could not find a better friend in the White House than Mr. President Richard Nixon. I want to just... I don't know.
All sports?
I just want to hit rewind and say it sort of speaks volumes that it's not like the president loves all people. He loves all sports.
He loves all sports, though.
Could not find a better friend in the White House than Mr. President Richard Nixon. He loves all sports, particularly football and winter sports. He will know as much about the offense of the Washington football team as will Don Shula over in Baltimore. He will call Bear Bryant, John McKay, Ara Parsegian, and Wally Butts by their first names. Well,
you would want to call Wally Butts by his last name. I think
Wally Butts would prefer to be called by his first name for obvious reasons.
Butts.
I recall one evening when the American Football Coaches Association was holding its annual meeting that winter, either at Palm Springs or the Los Angeles Biltmore. Pat and Richard Nixon invited all the coaches up to the Nixon home in the Truesdale Estates in the hills above Hollywood and Beverly Hills for a cocktail party. All accepted the invitation, as did my wife and I, and a most congenial evening it was, with everyone talking the same language. What the fuck? Yeah. Like, this is just this whole article is just to brag that he got invited. Yeah. I had a lovely time at the Nixon house with my wife. Mr. Nixon was intensely interested in anything the coaches had to say about football, a game he himself had played as Chief Newman's splinter end on the bench at Whittier College. On the bench. Okay. I know what that means. Mr. Nixon often has said he still considers Chief Newman one of the greatest influences in his life. From Newman, he learned what it means to be a competitor. Politics has seen no fiercer competitor than Richard Nixon. Oh my God, stop sucking his dick. Jesus Christ. You can beat him in a battle, but he comes charging back, like Dempsey getting up out of the first row of seats in the Furpo fight to win the war.
old reference to win the war.
Yeah, these references. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So yeah, Nixon loved all sports.
Meaning football and like a couple others. Like, this is funny because like this whole episode so far, it's like we're talking football, golf, and baseball. That's it.
But they're like, we love sports. Here's Nixon in an interview talking sports.
Well, Mr. President, I know of your fondness, not only for sports, physical fitness, but also Vince Lombardi, who's being honored here at the Hall of Fame. He was a very special man, I think, to so many people. I think you felt that.
He was very special to me, mainly because I read about him and admired him as millions of Americans did, who saw what a man he was. He was a great coach, as you, of course, know. But more than that, he was a fine family man. He was a man who loved his country, and he set a magnificent example for people all over the country. I think that if you were to pick one man who has more caught the imagination of the nation in the field of sports, it's probably Vince Lombardi, because of his character.
I would like to start a rumor right now that Richard Nixon and Vince Lombardi were secretly dating.
Yeah, we can start it. You know who he also hung out with?
O.J. Simpson.
Yep, there's just a picture of him and O.J.
Yes.
President-elect Richard Nixon and Heisman Trophy winner O.J. Simpson talk over the finer points of football as the former substitute on a college football team familiarizes his politician's hand with the pigskin.
Okay.
I love that they love to throw in that Nixon played, but he sat on the bench.
Yes. Just to be clear.
So yeah, Nixon's obsession with football helped him appeal to blue-collar voters and football fans, like kind of everyone uses it for.
Sure.
Portraying him as tough, competitive, and relatable. It's so funny watching politicians from all eras talk to media and just like the way they lie or the way they just kind of like have a very like character.
It's a very curated image.
Yeah.
And it's always like nice and generally kind of bland. Like they're always sort of like trying not to upset anybody. Yeah. No matter, even if they're just talking about something as, innocuous as football.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Gerald Ford, 1974 to 77. Ford was a standout football player at the University of Michigan and was offered NFL contracts by the Lions and the Packers.
And he was like, no, I want to be the president.
Yeah. He's considered one of the most athletically accomplished presidents. Here is a very Michigan report examining Gerald Ford's sort of history with sports.
Since the days he was a college football star, Gerald Ford always kept his eye on the ball. A center for the Wolverines, he led the team to back-to-back national championships, and in 1934 was named the MVP.
He'd sit with his legs apart, almost dead, after the beating he took in the Ohio State game.
We tracked down 92-year-old Earl Townsend, who was Gerald Ford's college roommate at the DKE fraternity that stood before this house was built. Townsend tells us Gerald Ford would take a beating on the field, but still found the strength to wash dishes at the old DKE house to pay his room and board.
It was always tough. We washed dishes, fixed food, helps with everything.
Gerald Ford loved U of M so much he took Betty to the Michigan Northwestern game for their honeymoon in 1948.
Poor Betty.
The university loved him too, welcoming then President Ford to speak to the 1976 team before a game.
You play to win, and that's the only way I know to move ahead, whether you're on the gridiron or whether you're in classrooms or whether you're in politics or anything else.
And in 1994, Gerald Ford became only the 5th Michigan player to have his jersey retired. Number 48 will never grace the field again at the Big House, but the spirit, hard work, and ethics of Gerald Ford will forever be remembered here.
Spirit and ethics, I don't know.
Taking your wife on your honeymoon to a college football game is so rude.
Oh my God. Yeah, go to a fucking beach. Jesus.
Yes, seriously.
All right, here's one of Jim Harbaugh also just really loving on
Jim Harbaugh.
Gerald Ford. And this one, the reporter's pretty funny at the end. He's got a great line.
Well, the Michigan football team is on their summer tour of Michigan, and today's stop was in Grand Rapids at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. Gerald Ford was, of course, the President of the United States, but also a former member of the Michigan football team. Wolverines head coach Jim Harbaugh wanted his team to learn about someone he considers the most prestigious Michigan alum. Harbaugh also has a personal story with Ford. When Harbaugh was 12 years old, he begged Michigan head coach Bo Schembechler to be his caddy for the Michigan Open Pro-Am, where Ford was also golfing. Schembechler said yes, and Harbaugh was able to spend the day with Schembechler and Ford on the golf course and give him a memory he'll never forget.
Yeah, I carried around this big, huge bag. It was probably about as big as I was at the time. And I remember just what a gentleman President Ford was. And even though sometimes I was walking across the line or not getting the flag when I was supposed to, they were all very nice to me. And the Secret Service. When there were Secret Service in trees, they had machine guns in golf bags. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Got to stay prepared, I suppose. Tomorrow,
they had machine guns and golf bags. I'll always remember that. Gotta stay prepared. I gotta hear it again. It's really good.
They had machine guns in golf bags. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Got to stay prepared, I suppose. Travel up to Pier Marquette.
That's good. That's real good.
That's such a good joke.
That's real good. This is just funny because this whole episode is men telling pretty boring stories that they think are really interesting.
Oh my God. Yes.
That poor 92-year-old man that they called up and he was like, he'd play football and he'd be tired, but he'd wash the dishes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just all these men telling these stories and I'm like, okay, it's I'm kind of bored, but it's very special to them.
Here's Ford's little part of a video called Golf and the American President.
Okay.
By the USGA.
The Gerald Ford in the American imagination is the sort of bumbling golfer who kept scattering galleries with errant golf balls. That's not really fair. Ford is one of the best athletes of any American president. He was an All-American football player at Michigan, could have gone and played pro football. And he was a terrific golfer. He was the first golfer to really play in Pro-Am tournaments where there are thousands of people lining fairways. What I love about Ford is he was like Taft and Eisenhower, a president who was really unapologetic about his love of the game. Not only did he play in Pro-Am tournaments, but he also used golf just to relax. After he pardoned Richard Nixon, the first thing he did was he went down to the grand opening of the World Golf Hall of Fame and played a round of golf with Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player. And there were some eyebrows raised about whether that was appropriate. And this had been a long-standing invitation. He was an amateur golfer. What amateur golfer is going to pass up an opportunity to play with those three legends? And he went and did it.
I don't understand.
Pardoned Richard Nixon, and the first thing he did was play golf, and that's a heroic story.
Yeah, I just don't understand the I don't know, why is there this overwhelming need to sort of redeem these men of people think he wasn't a good golfer. He's actually a really good golfer. Who cares? He was the president. He was we should be talking about if he did a good job at being the president.
Yeah,
or
not golf. And there's a guy these guys are it must be on the record.
Everybody says he's bad at golf. I just want to say, and it's who? I don't care.
I once saw him shoot 39. It was pretty good. All right, so I'm going to end this little Ford section with Ford actually having a more progressive line at the end of this than any of our current Democrats even have.
I want to pay a special tribute to the professional football sport because it makes no difference whether your father came from Poland, Ireland, Italy, or the cotton fields of Alabama. It's not the way your name is spelled.
or how it's pronounced. It's the uniform and the man who's inside of it. Matters not whether his father was a coal miner or an executive. What counts, and this is really the criteria, is whether he has the stuff. And that is the way it should be played all over America, no matter what the game or who the player is. That this place is truly a symbol of the greatness of America. The America that has become great not in spite of diversity of its peoples and the far-flung nature of their origins, but because of it.
Gerald Ford, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love all the like meritocracy stuff because obviously there's a ton of things that stop people from just having access to merit-based things.
Of course.
But as an example of something, and the fact that he's willing to say it as a Republican president is kind of shocking to hear now.
Yeah, it's true. It's very,
with
very
such
true.
conviction. So convinced of the thing that I believe about the country that if it's going to be a country, it has to be basically a diverse country of all the other people.
Has to embrace the truth that diversity enriches the country and creates progress more than it doesn't. I think that was, it's a very powerful speech. It's very rousing and he's not wrong. I mean, what I will say to that is I feel like sports and particularly football and particularly the NFL is one of those areas where like you do see people of all races achieving greatness and that is amazing. But people of all races should be allowed to have dignity and achieve greatness, even if they're not star NFL athletes.
Exactly. That's like the elephant in the room of that.
Yes.
And he does say that even in that speech. Like,
we
have a long way to go in other areas.
Of course.
But why is football the main one then? Like, why aren't we focusing all that effort?
And I would argue that there are plenty of people who watch football and accept the fact that there are people of different races than them playing and are still racist.
Oh yeah. And like that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like the sort of the control over this is my team kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But good for him.
Yes. Jimmy Carter, old peanut farmer himself, 1977 and 1981 is the era we're talking about here. Carter promoted jogging and physical fitness, sort of like JFK, often seen specifically participating in jogging events. His passion for running was emblematic of the health craze of the 1970s, like our parents probably came up in. Carter's focus on fitness helped him connect with a growing health-conscious voter base, the jazzercise crowd. So this is just interesting. When I was looking stuff up about Carter, I came across this article from 1979, and it was by a guy named Oscar Cooley in the Lima Times. And this is just an example of like really good writing from the past that I came across and a really good take that almost seems modern.
Was I the only citizen of the Republic who felt silly to see that picture of President Jimmy Carter jogging in Korea ahead of a detachment of sheepish GIs? It seems one must jog nowadays to prove he is a regular fellow. The president jogs, the army jogs. Millions, the numbers say, are jogging. I don't jog. There's something about exercising for its own sake, going through totally unproductive motions, that leaves me cold. It's all outgo, no income. And that is poor economy. I like to walk, but seldom just take a walk. I walk to go somewhere if it is only to the post office. In short, I must have an objective. This gives point to the walk. In fact, my legs seem to know whether they are propelling me somewhere or just propelling me. They too like to go places. Having a goal, they don't mind taking generous strides, one promptly following another. When they have none, they just dawdle. There are many motions one can go through to get exercise. Books on the subject have been written. The authors guarantee that if you faithfully follow their instructions, you will use every muscle in your body, each by just the right amount. Presumably, you will live forever. I put no faith in such literature. The only good it does is provide some occupation for the writing fingers and forearms of the authors. The exercises they prescribe are a bore. A better way of weightlifting is to climb stairs, as I do every night en route to bed. I lift my weight about 10 inches for every stair step. That's the equivalent of lifting a 150-pound barbell about 10 feet. And I get somewhere. Bed.
All right, you can stop there, but
that's amazing.
Such a good thing to think about, right?
Yeah,
and I've actually
it
been
is.
thinking about that a lot myself recently because I just quit a gym because of annoying credit card policy, but I also kind of wanted to get out of it.
Uh-huh.
And I've just been doing a lot more like I've been outfitting our fish tanks, and so a lot of that is like carrying buckets of water, and I went on walks to get like rocks and things to put in there. Like that's not always going to be the case, but going out and doing something with your exercise, even if that's just like a hike that gets you a view, or I like go to the park and play basketball for a little bit, just like something like that's obviously getting you exercise, but is there a way you can like get some exercise, still enjoy your time, not beat yourself up about going to a gym, and not do a boring repetitive task?
Yeah, that other people told you is good. I mean, I will say, like, if you are enjoying yourself and you're feeling good,
oh, for sure,
that is kind of the point, and is a good enough reason to do it. But yeah, it's interesting to be like, people who have written books on the subject, like, oh, buddy, Oscar Cooley, you would be so upset if you knew
how the world has gone.
How
the health
many
industry.
different ways people were telling you how to exercise through every single possible medium. But yeah, the points in my life where I have felt the most like quote unquote physically fit are times when like being active is just part of my lifestyle. Like I have to, either for work or just my life. Like, I mean, we do a lot of walking. You and I we don't have a car, and we live in an area where fortunately it's a very walkable community, and that is really how I prefer to get my physical activity.
Oh, for sure. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, next up we got Ronald Reagan.
Everybody's favorite.
Everyone's favorite, 1981 to 89. Before his political career, Reagan was a radio sports announcer and an actor. And for this one, I'm going to have you actually open the gift that I actually just got from eBay. I'm going to have you open it like a gift.
Okay. Yeah, I saw this. I was like, why is there a box cutter and an eBay
This
box?
is this is part of the Reagan one.
What the hell?
This is a VHS tape.
It sure is. Pat O'Brien and Ronald Reagan, Newt Rockney, All-American.
Can you read the back of it? This is a
Yeah.
VHS tape.
This is a VHS. Is this a movie starring Ronald
It
Reagan?
is.
Oh, no. Okay. A thrilling biography of the great coach ranks high, says the New York Times. A great sport and one of its legendary personalities come to life in Newt Rockney, All-American. Pat O'Brien is unforgettable as the Norwegian-born Notre Dame football coach who led the Fighting Irish to a record-breaking 105 victories in 13 years. And in his best-known role, Ronald Reagan portrays George Gipp, Rockney's tragically fated gridiron discovery, based on private papers of Mrs. Newt Rockney and on reminiscences of her husband's colleagues.
So we got a date night.
Oh, no, I'm not watching this.
Newt Rockney. I have a VHS player, so.
This could not look more boring to me personally.
I'm going to play you a little clip from this film because this role gave Ronald Reagan the nickname the Gipper and inspired his famous campaign slogan, "Win one for the Gipper." So here's a little clip from the film of that famous Gipper moment.
Someday when the team's up against it, brakes are beating the boys. Ask them to go in there with all they've got. Win just one for the Gipper. I don't know where I'll be then, but I'll know about it. I'll be happy.
So he's dying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the real George Gipp was indeed a football player at Notre Dame in the early 1900s, known for his athleticism and his tragic death from pneumonia at 25. Well, it's debated whether Gipp actually made that win one for the Gipper request. Reagan used it and popularized it during his political career, making it sort of a legendary phrase.
I feel like that would only remind me that, like, this man is an actor, not necessarily the president.
Yeah. But true. Reagan frequently liked to use sort of sports metaphors to try to simplify complex political issues.
Sure.
Always sort of talking about America as like his Team America, where I think that's actually, I think, where the South Park guys got Team America when they wrote that. Here is Reagan remarking on hockey.
I should tell the teams to check the rink pretty carefully before you skate out on it Friday. I was out there last Saturday, and where you will be skating, there was a rodeo going on. The Capitals give Washington a very much needed team to cheer for, and I want you all to know I follow your progress. Last year, you were great. This year, we hope you'll be even better. And again, thank you all for being here. And
he doesn't follow their progress. Who says I follow your progress instead of I'm a fan?
Did he just say rodeo when he meant rodeo?
He did.
Okay.
Rodeo. There was a rodeo.
Doesn't he know that they can change the floor? The ice is underneath the rodeo.
When the U.S. hosted the Summer Olympics in L.A. in 1984, Reagan used the Olympics as sort of a showcase for America and himself, and him looking good, as any president kind of would when there's an Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Here is a clip of Reagan sounding like maybe a modern day left winger again in this speech about Olympic medal winners in 1984.
you can talk on and read forever books about the melting pot. But the past 2 weeks, there it was, winning medals for us, representing us every day. 140 countries represented here, in the only place in the world where those who were competing for this nation had the bloodlines and the background of more than those 140 countries. And so I say to you, the great melting pot team of 1984, the members of America's team at the 23rd Olympics, thanks for the memories, and thanks for the great moments, and thanks for being what you are, genuine heroes.
It's all bullshit, but like it is a nice message. Like,
yeah.
I think it's, you have to take these Republican guys who back then were doing terrible things and then saying this. It's a very easy way to speak about equality is through sports.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at, we're America. We got people of all different races in our sports. And look at that team on the U.S. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a good, again, idea, but that's not actually what these presidents were doing.
No, and like the Olympics always provides like a distraction. Like it felt like it did this year as well.
Mm-hmm. I think I actually in college wrote a paper on the bicentennial being used as more of like a propaganda thing than a legitimate sort of celebration.
Oh, so you were always like that.
Yeah. So like it's very similar to this, where you can kind of see it like this. They're using symbolism and stuff to just more shape public opinion than anything else.
Yeah.
And then Reagan also cast the Soviet Union during the Cold War as sort of team Russia and that type of shit versus Team America. And of course, there's this famous speech, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I remember this.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
All right, moving on to the Bushes. We got George H.W. Bush. He played baseball at Yale and was part of the team that went to a College World Series. In his baseball background, part of his broader campaign strategy was connecting with Americans through nostalgia. Baseball, Republicans do it all the time, especially.
Sure do.
Then moving forward to Bill Clinton. So we mentioned Clinton playing golf, frequently played golf during his presidency, participating in charity tournaments and using the sport to connect to politicians and allies. You know, the classic playing golf and doing business.
Yep.
Here's a video of Bill Clinton swinging by Bogota, Colombia for a charity golf tournament. And I found this video when I was just looking for Clinton sports stuff, and it sent me down a little rabbit hole here we're going to take. This is Bill Clinton joined by the Colombian president at the time.
I want to thank President Clinton for being in our country and being a great friend of Colombia, always in humanitarian and social causes, because that is what he does. Clinton Foundation is very active here, and this tournament hopes to raise $1 million for it.
So yeah, I saw that and then I was like, wait, why was Clinton in Bogota at a charity golf tournament after the presidency? And I could go on and on about Clinton here, but I want to use this one clip to sort of go into this story about like why he was in Colombia at that time. So Clinton is somewhat of a hero in Colombia to certain people for cracking down on drugs in Colombia, like cocaine. Originally devised through a partnership between Colombian President Andres Pastrana and Clinton, Plan Colombia aimed to curb drug trafficking while fostering peace and stability. However, what began as a development-focused strategy quickly shifted to a heavily militarized, U.S.-driven anti-narcotics campaign. The initiative soon prioritized aerial fumigation, and glyphosate herbicide was sprayed across vast regions of the country.
They basically like gassed all of the crops?
Yes. As part of Clinton's big war on drugs, they decided to go right to the source and just gas cocoa fields in Colombia, in certain areas of Colombia. This is a huge industry there. So to just come in and gas all their fields, they have nothing to do with the cocaine production. Their cartels have taken over things and forced them to give a certain amount of their product probably to cocaine. So yes, it is fueling it, but all of these people who it's their industry
the crops of
got no
farmers?
warning and just planes came overhead. Imagine if your whole livelihood is these fields and you have these giant, beautiful farms and the U.S. government just came in and fumigated them all out and probably killed your family from the poison.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So here's a clip from a documentary about this that I found.
When the small planes came, they fumigated the house, everything. Short afterwards, because of the fumigation, my little daughter died. The poison came all over her, and then she started to vomit and died.
2 planes came and they fumigated. Some were around 10 o'clock in the morning. Everything was affected and my little girl got poisoned. I found her dead. She was just 17 months old.
A considerable part of the cocoa crops are located in territory dominated by the guerrilla movement. Earlier attempts by the Colombian anti-narcotics police force to eradicate cocoa crops ended in violent confrontation with a better armed guerrilla. The government's only alternative was to fumigate from the air. Even so, the inevitability is the drug war has a direct interface with the counterinsurgency war.
And then they just turn into a political thing and don't really talk about how they just killed a bunch of people. This is what U.S. imperialism is doing to this day.
Yeah.
Just disrupting things, violently killing people for their political and money interests mostly, recklessly killing people in order to get a thing done, not thinking of these people as humans who lived on these fields.
Yeah, like you can't give them some warning at least so that their kids don't die?
No regard for human life if it means more capital.
Oh, that's messed up.
Anyway, the practice not only killed cocoa plants, but also all the essential legal crops.
Of course.
Contaminating sources and exposing local communities to significant health risks. Thousands of Colombians were affected, displaced, and faced economic hardship, suffering from health issues, while the environmental impacts devastated the rainforests and entire ecosystem. When a whole group of people are reliant on a resource, you can't just fucking take that resource. So that's my little rant about that. Because when I found this, I was like, oh, of course, there's a dark, dark history to Clinton playing golf in Bogota.
That's so messed up. I don't understand how you can be like, well, this is a tough situation. I guess we should just spray a bunch of chemicals on areas and have no regard for how that's going to affect people in the long run.
Yeah.
Like, what?
But we get to check it off a list. We did something about drugs in our country.
It's awful.
So gross.
That's so awful.
You know what's also so awful? George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009.
Segue.
Bush's background, also a baseball player at Yale. Little nepotism insert here.
Nepotism. That's America, baby.
Including two.
No, I think he got in on his own accord.
Played in 2 College World Series. He became the part owner of the Texas Rangers, actually, in 1989. Bush had always loved baseball, and by the late 1980s, he was beginning to set his sights on a public career. Very Connor Roy of him. I would like to be president. Okay, Connor. A high-profile role with the Rangers would give him a platform in Texas, potentially bolstering him for future ambitions. I wish he wouldn't have done that. So in 1988, the year I was born, the Rangers owner, oil mogul Eddie Childs, decided to sell the team. Bush saw this as an opportunity and began gathering investors. He connected with businessman Richard Rainwater. Yes, that's Dick Rainwater, who provided significant financial backing, and Bush assembled a group of investors who together raised about $86 million and bought the Rangers. So yeah, old Dick Rainwater and Bush got together and bought the Rangers. They basically flipped it. Bush chipped in $500,000, I guess, for this, and made $15 million when they flipped the team.
So did they just make the team good?
Better. They added a stadium. They added a whole bunch of value to it. but he flipped it.
Now, I'm guessing that the taxpayers probably had something to do with the stadium, but they probably got none of the money from the sale.
Yeah, probably. I didn't look, but yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So as far as Bush and his image in sports, this was kind of a big precedent for that because Bush was in office during 9/11, which they used as a reason to go to war. And a big part of ramping up that support was Bush as the leader of that movement, that war.
Ceremonial first pitch. And please welcome the President of the United States.
These are the types of images that we used to then go to war.
Yeah, I remember this time. First pitches are always funny to me because like it's not actually the first pitch because like they're not pitching it to anyone to actually hit it. They're just throwing it into the catcher's hand.
Yeah. Bush was obviously decked out there in body armor and there were like snipers around the whole stadium.
Oh, sure.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for many, as I said, Bush's World Series pitch symbolized a spirit of like never back down, which echoed in the policies that followed with his war on terror. War is justified as necessary for national security, but controversial for their long-term impacts.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, we're getting near current day here with Barry O. Obama was a well-known basketball fan. He played in high school, played pickup games at the White House. That was definitely a part of his presidency.
Nice to get another sport in the mix.
Seriously. A big thing Obama did, we mentioned this on our March Madness episode, but we'll mention it here. He picked brackets.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever is looking hotter at the end of the year, those are teams that I tend to be a little more inclined to pick. You got to go with Kentucky at this point. I mean, there's a reason why they're the overall #1 seed. Anthony Davis, an Illinois kid, is
Anthony Davis.
Strong brow.
Unbelievably talented.
Because you had Vanderbilt knocking off Harvard. This is the first time Harvard's in since 1946.
Listen,
you have a degree from Harvard.
I've got a degree from
Arnie
Harvard.
Duncan played at Harvard.
Arnie Duncan, my Secretary of Education, played at Harvard. Beating Vanderbilt after they've been on this run at the end of the year where they're playing very well right now is just too much of a stretch.
Obama definitely had a youth and fitness focus, especially through Michelle.
Right. I remember
that whole
this.
Oprah fitness thing.
Yeah.
Obama definitely used basketball as sort of a thing in his press as well and other sports in general.
Obama was elected when we were in college. And I do remember like being on the quad at college the night that he got elected and all of us feeling this like enormous sense of hope and change.
Yeah. I went to an Obama rally.
Yeah. I mean, he became president during a time when I remember specifically in college having the feeling of like, this is it. We're only going up from here. Like there's only going to be like more progress, more acceptance, like more policy put in place to protect everybody. The country's only going to get better and more inclusive. It really did feel that way. And so I think when I see pictures, videos, whatever of Obama, I still get like positively triggered in that way of like, oh, remember that time? Even though like I know he had a flawed presidency.
And then lastly, for the purposes of this, because Biden is basically dead, we're going to talk about Donald Trump when he was in the White House. And he was a big golf guy, obviously, and he has the fucking Mar-a-Lago and all the stupid golf courses. He also bought the USFL in the 80s and tried to do like an other upstart football league thing. Yeah, he was involved in that. And then
USFL.
I don't really want to talk about Trump, so I will mention though his golf courses around the world are like pretty golf courses, and he will often say that they're like environmentally friendly. It's laughable because I think everyone has basically criticized him for being like the least environmentally friendly when he constructs a course. Like in places like Scotland and, you know, those places where they're famous for golf courses, he has some Trump International ones there. And I guess they just like tear up all the environment.
Of course.
And there's like major environmentalist issues about how Trump put in his golf courses.
I don't know that there's any way to build a golf course that's environmentally sound when in order to build a golf course, you have to deforest a whole area.
It's so dumb. The fact that like people try to like semantically get around that. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're just tearing apart wilderness.
We took away the actual grass and we put in fake grass. It's very
Very well done.
environmentally sound. Like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. This episode might have peaked at going through the putting green saga, but now we're reaching the end if you're still with us. And, happy Election Day. And we will see you in a new presidency.
And to make you feel better, just imagine all those squirrels, like one of them or a few of them got out of their cage in the helicopter on the way to Camp David and just wreaked havoc.
Just laugh about that for the rest of ever. Or at least until we're back next time.
Or at least until you're, sleeping.
Yeah. All right, later.
Bye.